Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, back once again with Caesar. And this the last Caesar, guys? Like, is this it? The assassination of Caesar. He dies, so we can't really have any more unless we're gonna do some kind of like Alexander the Great thing where they steal his tomb and we gotta find his tomb, kind of thing. And I don't know. I don't think so, but assassination, you know, Caesar. uh, like I know, if the TV show is right, I've seen the TV show Rome, which is an amazing show, and I know if he's correct, if that's correct, he dies in the forum or like where the Senate kind of takes place, and then all the senators come and kill him, kind of stuff, right? I believe that's how he dies. I mean, I guess it makes sense. I mean, I guess this painting I brought up right here kind of proves that, right? I don't know what the difference between the guys in red robes and guys in white robes. I don't know. But anyways, guys, I mean, how many videos have we done on Caesar, guys? If you're new to this channel, even if you want to watch it, you should definitely check out the beginning of this playlist. This is amazing. There's a lot of videos, but they're all worth it. You get to see some amazing battles and tactics, and you get to basically start from Caesar, when he is not ruler or anything, or he's just, just one of the leaders in the republic kind of thing. But here we go, guys. He would be assassinated. It'd be kind of cool to the details about this and the names that kind of happen here. It'd be really cool to see. Anyways, hold tight, guys. I think this is the last one. Like I said, unless there's some kind of weird, funky business afterwards, or maybe they have some side notes or something about Caesar. I guess it's a possibility. I mean, Caesar's a popular series, so yeah, I wouldn't blame him. Just keep going, keep pumping out these Caesar videos, guys. Octavian, I think his is like son, or his like adopted. I don't know, but he goes by Caesar as well. Maybe they'll pick up on him. Yeah, or is that? Yeah, maybe they'll pick up on him. I don't know. Anyways, guys, please hit that like and subscribe button below. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, let's jump into this video. Or how it's gonna start off? Yeah, full screen. No. Horse. You want to delay the excellence, right? Alright, here we go.
Caesar's reforms had left a huge impact on the social and political life of Rome, and although his popularity with the masses was immense, there were men at the top of the Roman political ladder who were plotting against him. In this episode, we shall look at the motivations of these conspirators, which led to the assassination of Caesar on the Ides of March 44 BC. According to the Roman historian Suetonius, Gaius Julius Caesar was a big fan of trimming, plucking, and shaving his body hair, and the sponsor of this video, Manscaped, would love to help you be like Caesar. Summer is here, but are you ready to unveil your beach body?
Oh my God, really? I don't even want to ask, like, how you get that information? That's gotta be just made up, right, for this commercial. This is the weirdest thing ever. Oh man, nice tie into your commercial though. I mean, that was pretty genius though. Like what?
Shipping with the code GENERALS20 at manscaped.com.
Oh my God. So yeah, guys, if you want to shave like Caesar, grab one of these. Oh my God.
To see him as a tyrant, and this was Tyrant. Caesar's reforms had already led some to see him as a tyrant, and this was compounded by rumors that Caesar planned to overthrow the Republic and become something the Romans hated most, a king of Rome. These rumors were not unfounded. As dictator, Caesar was proclaimed father of the country. Sacrifices and games were given in his honor, and his statue was included alongside those of the gods in the procession before the games.
Oh wow.
He was also given a special chair in the Senate, made of ivory and gold, in effect a throne. Furthermore, Cleopatra had recently arrived in Rome, igniting rumors that Caesar wanted to install a Hellenistic-style monarchy, with himself as king and Cleopatra as queen. Caesar took to wearing triumphal garb, a laurel crown of victory, and red boots, and on one occasion didn't stand to greet the senators. The Roman kings of the past had worn red shoes, and they combined with the crown, throne, and perceived disrespect to the Senate to make the rumors look true. A small minority liked the idea. They adorned a statue of Caesar with a crown, and even once hailed him as a king. A plebeian tribune, Marullus, had them imprisoned for that, and in response, Caesar accused Marullus of having orchestrated the events in order to damage his political position, and had the tribune imprisoned. Marullus's office was sacrosanct.
I guess that was pretty smart. Like, you want Caesar out of power. He's got too much power. He wants it all to himself. He wants to be a dictator, emperor, king, or whatever. And obviously that's not what like Rome was built to be. And so instead of having him be low-key kind of like king or dictator or whatever, make him out to be this big dictator. Like, don't make it low-key, make it to the public known that, you know, this is what he's trying to do. Because then it just looks like you're trying to honor him and suck up to him, but obviously in reality you're trying to do the exact opposite by, you know, having people turn on him. Obviously Caesar's too smart for that, and can kind of see through him and see what's going on here. It's kind of neat, you know, how some of the senators, you know, they have their own ways of trying to kind of overthrow him by just make him look bad.
So this was seen as proof of Caesar's tyrannical ways and disregard for the Republic. For some, it was also proof that Caesar did in fact want the title of king, and that he punished Marullus because the tribune had been imprisoning Caesar's supporters. According to Appian, on one occasion, Caesar was watching a ceremony for the Lupercal Games, which included Antony as consul for that year and the other priests running naked and anointing people. At one point, Antony approached Caesar with a crown. Some in the crowd groaned at this, others applauded, but Caesar refused the crown, pleasing the majority of people. Again, Antony tried to crown Caesar, and again he refused, drawing huge applause from the crowd. This has often been interpreted as a staged affair to see how the people would react, with Caesar hoping that he would be welcomed as king.
I was gonna say, they're trying to use like reverse psychology. Oh, he doesn't really want it, you know. He's a good guy. Sure, he's not taking it, and then or maybe he's trying to say, maybe they do want me to be king. You know, if I turn it down, they'll boo me, and if I take it, they'll cheer me. Definitely interesting. That turn of events is definitely got to be staged, right? There's no way. No way.
Combined with Caesar's other actions, some were convinced that Caesar would use his powers as dictator to become a monarch. In the ancient sources, it is these reasons that are given for why the conspirators decided to plot against Caesar and later dubbed themselves liberators. However, there is also evidence to counter these claims. Caesar forbade any from calling him king, saying that he was not king but Caesar, and Dio points out that he did not ask for any honours. Some of them were enacted by his past enemies, like Cicero, eager to curry his favour, while many of his allies likely thought that he really did deserve the honours bestowed on him. It was in Caesar's interest to therefore try to appease both sides, accepting some honours while denying the more egregious ones. Caesar's punishment of Marullus was arguably overzealous, but it may have been done to try and maintain neutrality with the party that apparently did want him as king. According to Dio, Caesar's wearing of a triumphal crown was to try and hide his baldness. Similarly, Plutarch claims that Caesar not standing to meet the Senate was due to Caesar's illness, which often made him dizzy and faint if he stood up quickly after being sat for too long. Lastly, there is the anecdote of Antony crowning Caesar. When one considers the image of a naked, oiled Antony offering the crown to Caesar, it's harder to see it as a cunning political ploy. In fact, It's arguably much closer to a joke in bad taste, or a charade to amuse the masses. Finally, one...
I mean, yeah, I said it had to be safe, but it could be exactly that, like, we don't know, like, the relationship, between these two, so it could be like, hey, like, maybe, like, Anthony knew more. Maybe they could have been pretty close. Anthony knew he wanted to be king, but he didn't want to. Because it's just kind of messing with him, I can definitely see that being the case. I don't know. And just, I guess you just never know, right? Like, we will never know. I guess everyone's kind of their opinion.
One must also consider the question of why Caesar would have wanted to be king. As Plutarch and Dio both point out, he effectively had all the power of a king, so why also have a title that carried such heavy political baggage in Rome? It's hard to think that Caesar would not have known how foolhardy such an idea was. Some modern historians have suggested that the conspirators' idea that they were saving the Republic was mere propaganda, and that many were motivated by more personal factors. In total, there were 60 conspirators, all senators. We know the names of 20, but only 12 are described in enough detail in the sources for their personal motives to be assumed.
Huh.
That spin class was brutal. You can try using the Buick's massage and see.
Marcus Junius Brutus had fought with Pompey and was spared after Pharsalus. Welcomed by Caesar, he was appointed governor of Cisalpine Gaul. Brutus's mother was a lover of Caesar, and the two men were close. False but still humiliating rumors circulated that he was Caesar's bastard, and even that his mother had prostituted his half-sister to Caesar.
Wow.
Ancient and modern historians have claimed that they were likely a key motivator for him. However, Brutus was a supposed descendant of the semi-legendary Brutus who had ousted the last king of Rome, so many insisted that he be the one to take action against Caesar's kingship. He was the conspirator who had the most genuinely idealistic motive to assassinate Caesar. An experienced general with a solid military career, Gaius Cassius Longinus was also forgiven by Caesar in the aftermath of the Battle of Pharsalus. He became a legate in Caesar's army in Egypt, but refused to fight against Pompeians. Nevertheless, he was earmarked by Caesar to be governor of Syria. However, Caesar had hampered his career a few times, preventing him from becoming edile and postponing his consulship. Though he was made legate, Cassius probably deserved a higher command based on his experience. It's apparent that Caesar never really trusted him, and he was right not to. Cassius had plotted to kill Caesar from as early as 47 BC, and genuinely hated Caesar. Certainly motivated in part by his Pompeian loyalties, Cassius disliked Caesar for personal reasons, and was the most active about the plot.
Dang. Yeah, Caesar had to know all this was going on. I mean, it definitely makes sense. You don't want your enemies to have too much power, but you can give them enough power maybe just to keep them happy. And I don't know, but yeah, I guess he didn't really. Caesar must not have realized like how serious this was. He probably knew there was probably some whispers, but he probably didn't think, oh, they wouldn't go ahead with it. They don't have the guts to go ahead with it. I don't know. Interesting.
Caesar for personal reasons, and was the most active about the plot. Decimus Junius Brutus had fought with Caesar in Gaul, and was one of his most promising subordinates. He was made praetor by Caesar, and was set to be the governor of Cisalpine Gaul after Marcus Brutus's term. Caesar loved Decimus, as shown in Caesar's will that named him as a second-degree heir, a fact unknown to Decimus.
Wow.
This meant that if Octavian had died before, Decimus would have been legally adopted by Caesar and been his heir. His motivation is incredibly difficult to ascertain, the best argument usually coming down to pure greed for power. Another veteran of the Gallic Wars, Gaius Trebonius, was one of Caesar's most reliable legates. Caesar had appointed him as urban praetor, then governor of Hispania Ulteria, and finally consul in 45 BC. However, his year as consul was undermined by Caesar, who appointed a replacement consul for Trebonius's colleague, who died just 1 day before the end of his term, which was considered a mockery of the consulship. Trebonius may well have seen this as an insult, motivating him to join the plot. Previously, he also participated in a failed plot against Caesar, suggesting to Antony that they should murder Caesar. The latter rejected the offer, and the plot had not developed any further. One of Caesar's strongest supporters, Tillius Cimber, was rewarded for his loyalty with the governorship of Bithynia and Pontus. However, he was deeply annoyed that Caesar did not recall his brother, Publius, who was exiled for unknown reasons, possibly leading to his involvement. Publius Servilius Casca was one of the oldest friends of Caesar. Casca appears to have fallen on hard times financially, and may well have been angry that his old friend had not helped him more in this regard. His brother Gaius joined the plot to support Publius. A tribune of the
I think like most of these guys, or at least a bunch of them, probably just felt like pure pressured into it. Like, you know, there's probably just a few who are really the ones a big time behind it, putting all the X's and O's together. And then they just had to get some kind of support from people. So when it did happen, you know, at least there was, you know, a bigger group, you know, that kind of support the situation. And these guys were like, whatever, go along with it. You know, if you succeed, then I'm with you. And maybe part of them were like, if you don't succeed, then I'm going to say I was against you kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know. But definitely interesting, the different backgrounds. Because, I don't know, a couple of them, it seems like, why would you, you know, I don't know. It seems like too big of a risk. I don't know.
The plebs, Pontius Aquila, was publicly mocked by Caesar when he refused to stand during one of Caesar's triumphs. He also had some land confiscated and given to Brutus's mother, Caesar's lover, giving him a deeply personal motivation for joining the plot. Another man who was Caesar's legate in the Gallic Wars, Servius Sulpicius Galba, was a thrifty man. He had guaranteed a loan of Pompey's, and when Pompey's land was confiscated, he inherited the debt. Galba was annoyed and had complained to Caesar, who promptly paid the debt himself. Another debt later emerged from these same circumstances, which Caesar was less willing to help with, much to Galba's outrage. There were also rumors that Caesar may have been sleeping with his wife. Quintus Ligarius's life was spared by Caesar after the Battle of Thapsus, but he was later put on trial for apparently conspiring with Juba of Numidia and threatened with exile. Cicero defended him, and Caesar pardoned him. Nevertheless, he had been deeply depressed at the idea of being exiled. Furthermore, Caesar had executed a relative of his for taking up arms against Caesar despite already having been pardoned. These reasons, and friendship with Brutus, likely brought him into the conspiracy. Another Caesarian legate, Lucius Minucius Basileus, who served in the Gallic Wars, was made praetor in 45 BC, but instead of being given a province afterwards, was given a huge sum of money. This apparently deeply insulted him, motivating him to join the conspirators. The last in the group was Quintus Antistius, who seemed to have joined the plot purely out of devotion to his close friend Brutus.
So Bespoke Post, they just send you a cool box every month.
Wow, this is kind of awesome. This thing is jam.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, if you're friends with the people who are probably going to be in power afterwards, I mean, it gives you just a motivation in general. How you have a lot to gain by certain people being in power because you're as close to them and friends with them. So yeah, I'm sure that was probably a lot of the case in some of these situations.
Little to nothing is known of the other 8 named conspirators. In all likelihood, some really did believe that they were ridding Rome of a tyrant, as they would later claim. However, modern historians are also right to suggest that it's equally likely that a good many of them were involved either based on personal grudges or wanting to be a part of the creation of the new order. The sources vary on precisely who was the instigator, but Cassius and Brutus were the ringleaders, the former doing much of the recruiting, with the latter being more of a figurehead, his name and reputation crucial in convincing many others to join. Gradually they convinced the 58 other conspirators to join the plot.
Wow.
The conspirators did consider one of the most influential senators, Cicero, but concluded that he would not commit or would simply slow things down. At first, it was proposed that they kill Caesar, Antony and Lepidus. The latter two were the next most powerful Caesarians, so killing them would effectively remove all the faction's significant leadership. Brutus, however...
Okay, so they plan on killing 3 people, not just Caesar. Wow, I'm just definitely curious how this actually plays out now, if they get them all.
Opposed this. He argued that this was to be a surgical removal of a tyrant, not a widespread political purge. The other conspirators relented.
Okay.
Caesar would soon be leaving on his Parthian campaign, where, surrounded by soldiers, he would be untouchable, so they had to strike while he was in Rome. When Caesar announced a Senate meeting on the Ides of March, just 4 days before he was scheduled to leave, the conspirators decided that this would be the perfect opportunity. Caesar would be separated from his entourage.
How many people did they say was involved in it? Like 50-something people or 60 people? Man, that is impressive that many people knew and this was kept quiet. Because usually, like, you think 1 or 2 would be chirping, and telling someone to get back to Caesar kind of thing. But no, apparently not. Wow.
Conspirators could all be in the same place without raising suspicion, and they were confident that, when the attack began, other senators would quickly come to help them. Gladiators were scheduled to fight in the theatre adjacent to the Senate chamber the day of the meeting, and this would give the conspirators the perfect excuse to have armed soldiers nearby, as Decimus Brutus owned many gladiators. The night before the session, Caesar invited Lepidus and Decimus to his house for dinner. They talked long into the night, and eventually the philosophical question was asked, what is the best way to die? To which Caesar responded without hesitation that a sudden death was best. Throughout the night, Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, is said to have had dreams of Caesar's death, and in the morning, when Caesar was making his sacrifices, they were all foreboding. A superstitious man, Caesar decided to cancel the meeting, sending Antony to dismiss the Senate. Caesar had also been drinking late the previous night, and a hangover might have been influencing his decision. When the conspirators heard of this, they sent Decimus to convince Caesar to come to the Senate. Decimus told Caesar that the Senate would be insulted unless he dismissed them in person, and Caesar relented, trusting his friend's judgment. Meanwhile, word of the conspiracy had started to leak. A friend of Caesar's had heard of the plot and didn't know the details. He immediately ran to Caesar's house to warn him, but finding Caesar had already left for the Senate, decided to wait at his house. Another friend would also find out about it that same day and ran to the theatre of Pompey to try and warn Caesar, but would arrive too late. Lastly,
okay, so the secret did get out, but it was just way too late. They just couldn't find him, and yeah, wow.
Pompey to try and warn Caesar, but would arrive too late. Lastly, as Caesar was making his way to the theatre, someone slipped him a message. Surrounded by crowds of supporters and constantly having messages passed to him, Caesar slipped it into his robes without reading it. Later found on his body, it was a warning of the upcoming assassination. When Caesar arrived at the theatre, Antony, the conspirators and the other senators were all there. The conspirators were acting casual, despite the daggers hidden under their togas, but they were secretly nervous. A man approached Casca and said, "Brutus has told me everything," which shocked Casca, before he realized that the man was referring to his intention to run for Edile. Another senator...
I mean, would anyone be nervous? You're about to kill someone, assassinate someone, and if you get caught, you're all dead, pretty much, Yeah, I would definitely be nervous. I mean, this is interesting, though, the little side talks here in front, though.
Realized that the man was referring to his intention to run for Edile. Another senator approached Caesar, talking to him in hushed tones. the conspirators grew anxious, Brutus subtly signaling that they were to kill themselves rather than be captured, before it became clear that the senator had simply been petitioning Caesar on another matter. Despite more bad sacrifices, Caesar was convinced to go ahead with the meeting and entered the chambers. The senators followed, but Antony was quickly pulled aside by Trebonius. Caesar, a veteran with 35 years of experience, was in good shape despite his age. Antony was known as a hedonist, and he was also a veteran of 10 years, strong, quick to anger, and an incredible soldier. Together, the two of them might have been able to fight a way out, so the conspirators had entrusted Trebonius, one of Antony's closest friends, with keeping him out of the way.
See what scholarships you qualify for. Find your purpose at gcu.edu/myoffer.
Makes sense.
Caesar.
So, like the TV show I watched of Rome, part of a lot of this is very familiar with how it's playing out right now. So that's really cool. But yeah, because Anthony, like experienced general, a big soldier, and these are senators. I don't know how strong senators are, if they're if they work out, but if they're just senators and they're not soldiers, I mean, you could have a big brute, like Anthony. You could probably wipe a bunch of them out, And so, I mean, I guess if he doesn't have a sword or nothing, that he'd be pretty hard for him to do. But if he had one of those knives, I think he could easily, take a good portion of these guys out and then intimidate them to where they don't finish the job. Maybe, I don't know.
Was seated at the front of the Senate under a statue of Pompey. Cimber approached Caesar, petitioning him to recall his brother from exile. The other conspirators gathered around, encircling Caesar, and suddenly Cimber pulled Caesar's toga down, exposing his shoulder, the signal for the attack. Caesar, who as dictator was protected by law, pushed Cimber back, saying, "This is violence." Casca, Caesar's childhood friend, then attacked the seated Caesar, but missed, only cutting his shoulder. Caesar grabbed Casca's hand, shouting, "Ow! Casca, what are you doing?" While Casca simultaneously shouted, "Brother, help me!" Caesar was able to rise and violently throw Casca away from him, but by the time he did, Casca's brother Servilius had attacked, stabbing him in the side. Caesar continued to fight back, but was attacked from all directions, Cassius slashing his face, Bucolianus stabbing him in the back, and Decimus slicing his thigh.
Damn.
Still, Caesar fought back as much as he could. Brutus was the next to approach him, and Caesar sunk down, either due to blood loss or having now lost the will to fight, and Brutus stabbed him in the groin. Caesar pulled his toga over his head to hide his face, just as Pompey had done when
He's already dead, dude. Let's let him die. He's been stabbed a million times, and you come and give him stab in the groin. Brutus, that's messed up, man. I don't like you, Brutus.
He had been betrayed and murdered. Caesar resigned himself to his fate and died in a pool of blood at the base of the statue of Pompey. Suggestions that his last words were either "and you, Brutus," or "and you, my son," are largely disproven by the ancient sources, most simply saying he groaned in pain. His body.
I was gonna say, if Brutus was the last one to kill him and stabbed him in the groin, if he probably already had a million stab wounds anyway, there's probably no way he could probably even speak, because he probably had lungs punctured, and it was just so much pain, stabbed in the throat, face. There's probably no way he could even mouth any words. So yeah, I think that's definitely probably just made up. Yeah, why would you call someone your son if he just stabbed you in the groin?
Body had 23 stab wounds, many of which happened after his death, when the conspirators had gathered around to stab his body, some even wounding each other.
What?
Only the 6 mentioned senators stabbed him while he was alive, which means that less than 1% of the Senate had actually taken part in the assassination. Furthermore, the analysis.
Well, they just wanted bragging rights to say, "Hey, I stabbed Caesar," and when he was already dead, because they wanted to say, "I was part of this, vote for me." Oh my god.
Of his corpse at the time determined that only one, the attack from Servilius, was fatal. The fact that they could not strike a fatal blow on an unarmed, already wounded man perhaps tells us something about quite how panicked they were. Out of 60 conspirators, most did not even take part in the stabbing, suggesting that many had joined simply out of political opportunism. Gaius Julius Caesar had been assassinated by men.
Okay, so only one, but that just shows it's like, I don't know if did they had to have been in the military just because, isn't that part of like the Rome way? Like if you're going to be a higher up, you have to serve like a certain amount of years in the military. I remember them saying that, but I guess they're just weak now, and I guess they were terrified, so they're probably just like stab, run away. Like they weren't even like committed to the stab; they were just like and they just took off. So apparently, only a couple of them were probably actually serious about doing. I don't know. It's annoying. Like I don't know. Like it just seems like if you have a bunch of people, one just got distracted, and you just have one guy, bam, come in, go through a throat, bam, then be over it. I don't know. I guess Caesar put up an awesome fight, man.
Who had either been spared by him or trusted as friends. Dio later wrote of Caesar that if he could have chosen, he probably would have wished he could have died at Munda as a soldier. Even the ancient historians who are critical of Caesar, such as Dio, recognize that such a death was somewhat of a tragic end. For some, Caesar was a warmongering tyrant, driven by a lust for personal glory. To others, Caesar was a leader who tried to fix a system that was clearly broken and was killed before that goal could be reached. Some see Caesar as a combination of both, or something in between. What all can agree on, however, is that Caesar changed the world. By accident or design, his actions ultimately led to the rise of the Roman Empire, and all the effects, good and bad, that would bring. Two of the most interesting things that Caesar has left us today are two questions. Did Caesar make the world a better place? And what would have happened if he had survived? We're planning to cover the civil wars in the aftermath of Caesar's assassination in the near future, so make sure you are subscribed and have pressed the bell button to see them. Please consider liking, commenting and sharing, it helps immensely. Our videos would be impossible without our kind patrons and YouTube channel members, whose ranks you can join via the links in the...
Okay, so I guess Caesar ain't quite done yet. But wow, it was definitely interesting to kind of see the background of the senators and like how exactly the assassination took place. It was definitely interesting that the details of who was in on it and who wasn't, and that a lot of people I guess were in on it, kind of stabbed him when he was already dead. But wow, I don't really know what else to say because I kind of like said a lot of what I was thinking throughout this video, but pretty much brings an end to the series. I mean, I guess they said they're stay tuned for another video, but basically this last one of Caesar being alive, right, guys? Interesting stuff. Came a long way. Maybe I'll leave a poll question. Do you guys think he's a tyrant or a savior or something? That'd be kind of cool to see what everyone's opinion who watches this is. I'm assuming most people kind of think he's a savior if you're watching this, because usually people don't like to watch something of a person that they don't really like, I guess. But then again, like you kind of have to respect him for like all he's done, kind of thing. Even if you think he's a tyrant, kind of thing. I don't know. But let me know your thoughts below. Just how he died. Like, man, that was kind of cowardly, I think. I mean, Brutus, how and then the senators stabbing him when he's already dead, so only really a couple of them actually had the guts to kind of go start it and go through with it. Anyways, guys, please hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate you guys, joining me throughout this entire series and stuff like that. It'd be kind of cool to know who's watching this has actually seen every single episode of this series with me. That'd be kind of cool to know. So leave a comment below if you've actually watched every episode with me here, and yeah, all that cool stuff. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and catch you guys in future videos. Always a fun time here. Peace. Catch you guys in future videos. I am out of here.